Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and I know that it is not Fail Friday today, but I thought I would share with you a way that I am covering up my overmixed macarons. Now, I know it's not 100% covered up, but I'm pretty happy with the way that these turned out. But let's go back to the beginning to figure out how it got to this way in the first place. So I've said this before on my channel, but I can't actually share with you my macaron recipe because I took a very specific class for it, and I'm not allowed to share it. I get a lot of questions asking about macaron classes and what's reasonable to pay for a macaron class. I think I paid somewhere in the ballpark of $100 for a 4-hour class that was in person, and honestly, it was very, very well worth it. When I follow the directions to a T, nothing ever goes wrong with my macarons, except for today, but that is because I was trying to do a lot of different things at once. So what ended up happening was I ended up mixing up my batter twice instead of just the one time that you're actually supposed to do it. So that's why I get overmixed batter, and that's why you kind of see that dotting of green all over the Grinch shells. Now, at this point, there's really not too much you can do to fix it. There was nothing I could do once I overmixed it, and I actually didn't know I had overmixed it at this point because it was piping fairly nicely. I am just freehand piping all of these Grinch faces. I actually was just doing these macarons for fun. So I didn't really pay too much attention to making things super even. And what I love about making Dr. Seuss characters is that the more imperfect it looks, the closer to the drawings and illustrations that it actually gets to. Now, despite the fact that I do have a huge fail with these macarons that I'm going to show you how to fix later on in the video, I do have some tips about piping shaped macarons. So the way that I'm doing it is I'm making sure that it's nice and thick. I always find when I don't have my batter thick enough that I don't actually end up getting feet and everything is really thin. So I'm actually really happy with the way these do turn out. Now, you'll also notice that my batter was a bit thick. So I really need to make sure that I give it a good tap before I put it into the oven. You'll notice my bottom shells here don't have the little tuft of hair that the other top shells did, and I will often do this with shaped macarons because I just find I don't want to do all that thinking work for something that isn't even going to be seen. So what I meant earlier by I was happy with this is you can see I have really good feet there, but it's evident that I have some over mixing going on. Now you might think, oh, you probably just underbaked your shells, and yes and no. They aren't baked all the way through perfectly, and that's why you're seeing those little darker patches everywhere, but that comes from over mixing your batter because I did another batch using the exact same macaron batter and using the exact same temperature and time, and they were perfect because I didn't over mix that first batch. For some reason, I thought, oh, I'm just gonna loosen up the batter just a little bit more, and that totally did not work, so don't do that. Now, overmixing your batter does cause the top of the shell to be slightly more delicate than it normally would be. So when you're doing this portion here, after you airbrush to kind of cover up all those darker bits, you want to make sure that you are really gentle with your edible pen. Now, I was going to make the Grinch anyway, so once I discovered that there was an issue with my shells, I just kind of went with it and used the mistakes to my advantage because the Grinch does have a lot of shadowing and different types of green all over him, and I love that it also has a lot of sketched lines as well, so I can really try to cover things up. Now, of course, this might happen to you when you're not making Grinch macarons. So try to be creative with it and try to come up with some way to cover up that issue. Now, I will say that if you are running a baking business and this happens to you, I say that you try to cover up the mistake, maybe sell them as a much cheaper stock order, and then remake it if it is a custom order. Going in with my water activated edible paint palette. I love this one. It's so pretty. There's so many metallics in this paint palette. Everything that I'm using today I will put down in the description box below. This is some Italian meringue buttercream I whipped up, and I'm using some matcha milk tea powder. I really love the creaminess that milk powder adds to it, and I love the matcha flavor. It also helps that this is already green, so it really goes well with our Grinch macarons. When filling your piping bag, make sure you don't fill it up all the way to the top. Make sure that you give it a good twist so nothing is coming out. And then I always like to test it out in the bowl to make sure that I'm happy with the tip that I have chosen. And today I am using a French tip. You'll notice as well that because these are a little bit slightly underbaked, they're not terrible, but because I need that little bit of extra support, I'm putting them on these small little medallions. And again, if you were selling these or just if you're giving them to somebody, I would try to play it off like you should be eating it with a fork. I've eaten a lot of macarons in my time, and I can tell you these still taste really good. And actually the texture was quite good still as well. It's just those little picky things that a lot of macaron connoisseurs might know. Rather than using a black edible pen for this portion, I am using just straight edible food gel. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I always find when I use my edible pen on top of these metallic paints, it never shows up quite as dark as I would like it. So I just go straight in here. And you might be wondering why I'm not using vodka mixed in with this. And I just find when you're covering a small little space, it dries very quickly anyway. When these initially came out of the oven, I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm actually really happy with them. And I was still happy that they had that nice little snap still and really great chewy texture. Now let's get into the pricing. This pricing is based off of no mistakes made whatsoever, and these are the perfect little Grinch macarons. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys.